The economy is the biggest story of our time. That's why you're listening to The Larry Kudlow Show.
Welcome back here. Excuse me, I'm Larry Kudlow. This is The Larry Kudlow Show, and we welcome back. It's going to get right to it. Time is always scarce. The great Paul Ryan, chairman of the House Budget Committee, veteran congressman, former aide to Jack Kemp, which is where I first met him, and he ran for vice president in 2012 as a very young man. So first of all, Chairman Ryan, welcome back.
Hey, Larry, how you doing this morning? Good to be with you.
I'm doing good. I got a couple things for you. I have not finished the book. I'm reading the book. I like the book. I want to get to that in a second. But I spoke to Senator Ron Johnson this morning, and during the week I spoke to Senator Rob Portman, and last Saturday morning on radio I spoke at some length to Newt Gingrich. They all believe the GOP needs a new contract with America to clarify a Republican governing agenda and tell people what would happen if the GOP took both houses this November.
Larry, that is basically why I've written this book, because those of us who are leaders in our party need to spell out exactly what we would do, who we are, what we believe, the kind of philosophy and vision we would put in place and what it looks like in people's lives. And that's basically exactly why. So those three guys you mentioned are great men, and I agree with that. Rob Portman is really doing a good job over in the Senate on just that very point.
Fabulous. Excuse me. And Ron Johnson's been working on this for over a year.
Great.
He's a strategizer, your home state guy. So what I'm saying is, can you get together with Johnson and Portman, get a sign-off from your leadership? You're part of the leadership. You're the backbone of the leadership for policy. Can you get a sign-off and produce a document in 2 weeks?
Yeah, Rob and I had dinner a couple of weeks ago basically talking about this very idea. And so I hear what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying. I do believe it's very important that we can't just be a reactionary anti-party. We have to be a pro-growth, lean-forward, not to borrow the MSNBC term, but a pro-growth, future-looking, aspirational, inclusive party that is capable of producing a majoritarian movement in this country, and that's exactly the essence of this book.
All right, so let's get the contract done. You can unveil it in the middle of September.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. I don't know what we want. I don't think we want to call it, contract part 2 or anything like that. But I think we need to spell out exactly who we are, what we believe, and how we would do things differently. I agree with that. You
can. By the way, just for what it's worth, Newt said, you don't need 25 things. You could do 5, 6, 7 major topics, and you got it locked. All right, let me ask you something from the book. You write, with honesty, that the GOP faces serious challenges. In recent years, they've lost critical elections at the polls. We've lost 5 of the 6 presidential popular votes. We lost the Senate in 2010 and 2012 and should have taken it. Paul Ryan, why is this? What are the mistakes the GOP is making and how to correct?
Well, I think we need a dose of our good friend Jack Kemp's style of conservative politics and outreach. I think we need to be an aspirational party that unifies people and speaks to people's imagination using our founding principles and having a full tour defense of founding principles, showing how if we reapply them to the times that they produce realistic, better solutions, and then go and campaign everywhere in America. My lesson from 2012 is we need to open up the Electoral College, and we can't have an Electoral College strategy with a margin of error of 1 or 2 states. That is a loser for our party. And so we have to develop a more majoritarian movement so that we can have the kind of an election we had in 1980, for example, where we tell the country, here's who we are, this is what we believe, these ideas speak to each and every person no matter who or where they are in life, and if you elect us, this is what we'll do, so that we can have a mandate election, so that if and when we win that election, we have the chance, ability, and moral authority and mandate to turn the country around before it's too late. I believe that our economy is nowhere near its potential. Millions of people are slipping through the cracks. Poverty is stuck and mired. And we have a foreign policy where we're losing our standing in the world, and that clearly makes us less prosperous and less secure. And the good news is it's not too late to turn these things around and get it right.
So you're talking to Mitt Romney, I believe, Thursday in Chicago. He's basically interviewing you about your book.
Yeah, we did this last Thursday.
All right, last Thursday, right. Now, the quote I have from the AP story is that Ryan said he'd love to see Romney run again, okay? And You said it, so I take it seriously. Now,
Yeah.
I have a high regard for Mitt Romney. He's a fine man. I do not think he ran a fine campaign. And I think one of his greatest mistakes was this loose lips thing that 47% of the people who are on the government dole will never vote for him. Now, to me, that goes to the heart of one of the key issues for the Republican Party. You want that 47%. You want the non-rich to get rich. You want people to go from not work to work. The GOP has to create a bigger tent and a better policy message to get that done. What are you going to do about it?
So my guess is you probably are only halfway through the book, because essentially the second half of the book is just that. It's dedicated to that entire premise and that entire point, which is we have better ideas for upward mobility, for getting people out of poverty. We have to take it to these communities. And, oh, by the way, you know, I've been spending the last 2 years with Bob Woodson, our mutual friend from the Jack Kemp era, going around this country, learning from men and women who are so successful at triumphing over difficult circumstances, fighting poverty, producing growth and opportunity. And I tell their stories in this book, and I talk about the kinds of innovative policy solutions rooted in first principles that can help make more of that. You know, the Tocqueville did such a good job of describing what makes America special and unique, our social capital, our civil society. And we've also shown through Reaganomics, Jack Kemp's policies, pro-growth free enterprise, not crony capitalism, but pro-growth free enterprise policies can do more to help the poor, more to help produce upward mobility, and renew the American idea, the title of this book. And the American idea is really simple. The condition of your birth does not determine the outcome of your life in this country. We can get that back. We can renew our sense of optimism if we put the right policies and governing philosophy in place. And so I go into great detail on what that looks like and how it's a far better alternative to liberal progressivism and those policies and philosophies that we're seeing today.
All right, so let's be specific. Suppose I'm on extended unemployment insurance, I'm on food stamps, I'm on other forms of welfare. It hurts me. It hurts my psyche. It hurts my heart, and it hurts my self-worth to know that I'm not working and making a real contribution, that I'm taking money from Uncle Sam. How do I get out of that? What does the Republican Party have to say to such a person?
We're going to make it so that it always works to work, that it always pays to work, that you are rewarded for working. And since you're an economist, I'll tell you, the highest marginal tax rate in America is not the one Larry Kudlow is facing. It's probably the one that the single mom with kids who is earning between $20,000 and $40,000 is making, because she'll lose more in benefits in many cases than she gains in working. She'll face something like an 80% marginal tax rate because of the way federal benefits are designed. So my proposal fixes that, deals with that, so that it always pays for her to take that next step, so that we have our welfare reform system wired to getting a person from where they are to where they want to be, because they want to make it for themselves. They want opportunity. They want to be able to provide for their families and be self-reliant. And we have to have a system that is wired that way to do so. We don't have that system now. I would argue we have a poverty management system treating the symptoms of poverty, which simply end up perpetuating poverty. And so I go into good detail in this book, and I've released a fairly extensive plan recently on how to fix these things so that we are an upward mobile society, attacking poverty fundamentally, and making sure that we have a safety net for those who can't help themselves, and one for those who are able-bodied to help them get to work as quickly as possible on that ladder of life. And the real fundamental underpinning needs to be a growing economy, a healthy growing economy producing economic vitality, growth and opportunity. That is fundamental. And that's why I talk about tax reform and sound money and regulatory reform and all those things that are sort of the fundamental building blocks of a faster growing economy, which is necessary to renewing the promise of American life.
So I don't want to sound like the Grinch that stole Christmas, because I basically am a Kemp guy like yourself. But let me just walk through this. We never passed the 11th extension of unemployment benefits last January. And I thought that that was a good thing. And I think that the job numbers improved. We've had the best 6-month period since 1997. Has something to do with the fact that we did not continue to extend unemployment compensation. Okay? I think that we should have stricter eligibility and stricter time limits for welfare and food stamps. I'm in favor of the safety net. I don't want to abolish that, but I think we should have eligibility and time limits for how long. We did this in 1996, then we lapsed. We opened up.
Those are part of my recommendations, Larry. What I'm basically proposing is what I guess I call welfare reform 2.0. In 1996, we reformed one program, cash welfare. We used to call it AFPC. It's now called TANF. And it had work requirements, states' rights, and time limits. And it worked very well. We dramatically reduced poverty of children to single moms, which was a real pernicious problem as a result of that law. Problem is, it reformed one program, and there are several dozen others that have not been yet reformed. There are 92 federal poverty programs spending almost $800 billion a year, and we're not getting our money's worth. And I would argue we're freezing people in place. And so what I recommend is a consolidation of these programs and reapplying those principles, time limits, work requirements, customization of aid to focus on people's particular needs with a wire toward getting them to work. So that is what I'm calling for, another round of welfare reform that's more comprehensive and outcome-based, results-based, not input-based. This is the biggest problem with the war on poverty. It measures its success by how much money we spend, how many programs we create, how many people are on the programs, instead of how many people are we actually getting out of poverty.
Like education. It's like education.
Perfect example. And look, I look at education, and I see conservatives who have made a tremendous contribution in school choice, in charter schools. Let's take the same principles, that same effort and energy, and apply it to the rest of poverty, to the rest of the welfare state, and I think we'll get better results.
All right, last one real quick. So I'm a middle-class person. I'm earning $55,000 a year. In the last 4, 5, 6 years, my take-home pay after inflation has gone down. 5%, 6%, it's gone down. I'm working, but I'm losing ground. What's the Republican Party going to do for me? I got about 45 seconds.
Faster economic growth. The rising tides lifts all boats. Fundamental tax reform. Get rid of crony capitalism so that we can simply lower tax rates across the board to increase take-home pay. But more importantly, we want a faster economy that grows wages, increase take-home pay, and stop the government from taking more and more out of your paycheck.
Paul Ryan, the best of the best, the absolute best of the best. Congressman Paul Ryan, good luck on the book. I'm Larry Kudlow. We will be right back.